Hello.
I'm Jessica. It's a pleasure to meet you.
You don't know that yet.
I'm manifesting it.
Okay, okay. You're hoping.
Yeah, fingers
Yeah,
crossed.
yeah, desperately hoping.
How are you?
Life is good.
Oh,
I,
good.
I spent the whole life tripping on miracles.
Oh, I love that.
It was really pretty funny. Because if you think about it, if you get into the right mindset, everything's a miracle, including all the corruption and all the craziness and all the things you worry about, because the fact that you can even worry is a miracle.
hmm
Right? Because there's a point when you were just dust and water and little air and a little sunlight just buzzing around randomly, and you couldn't have the experience of worry
hmm
because you couldn't have the experience of anything that's human. So you look at all of it, like if you look at it like that, it's like actually everything's a miracle.
Yeah.
Everything you
Oh.
agree with and everything you disagree with, even.
hmm
Anyway, so I was really tripping on that. So,
I couldn't agree more. I mean, that is spot on for me right now. The last time I was going through something, I was experiencing something that I didn't want to feel. I
yeah.
thought to myself, I get to feel this. Like, even though it's like not an ideal feeling, like it's an uncomfortable, like
Well,
someone telling me
ideal,
it's that.
ideal means that if you say it's not an ideal feeling, it's just because you put a judgment on it,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? I mean,
Mhm.
I sometimes I think about, divine experience. Can we talk about that?
Sure.
So if you have to really go bad, and then you go and and the relief you feel, it's a divine experience.
hmm
I mean, to think about it, right? It's like even simple stuff. Or, you something itches on your arm and you scratch it, it feels amazing,
Right.
right?
Right.
So if you don't judge it, everything's really amazing.
Right. If you can just observe it and not
Yeah.
attach to
Yeah,
it.
because there's something in you that's not affected by it. Like if
Yeah.
you're doing it from your mind, or I was expecting this and now I got that, right? So in the world of change, everything changes. And you don't want it to change, well, then you're going to worry about it. But there's a place in you that observes all of that, that gets to experience all that, that is not affected by any of it. And if you're in that place, wow, a miracle inside a miracle.
Yeah. Oh
Right?
my gosh. I think we're talking about the wrong topic today.
Oh no, we can talk about anything. We
No,
can
I
go
mean
anywhere.
like yeah, I mean like this sounds like we could just stay here, but we need to talk about seed oils and other parts about health and
Well,
nutrition.
well, we can do that, and we can do it the other one the next time.
Yeah, I'd love
Yeah, yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because what I'm working on now is total health based in nature and human nature. And human nature. We've been here for 200,000 years and we've never actually put that together. And we're smart, but we're really stupid too. Yeah, so we've never put that together. And honestly, that's a bigger issue than oils. But oils are a big issue. The biggest nutritional issue is oils.
hmm
I read yesterday that um, Bill Gates wants to make butter basically out of earth oil or coal, because the carbon chemistry is the same, right?
I
So he
think it
wants to
happened.
make wants to make fake industrial butter. So and he was cutting some of it and eating it. I don't know if he could have been real butter, but
Yeah, I
anyway.
just saw a clip about that too. I think it might have happened. I don't know if they're selling it, but I think they're definitely,
But yeah, they're certainly talking about it.
yeah. Oh, so I'm guessing you're not a fan of it's along the same lines as the fish. You've heard that about salmon, how they're making their own 3D printed salmon.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
why? Because when you make it like that, it's actually more energy costly. The only thing that you get from it is somebody gets a monopoly and makes a ton of cash. You're not getting something better than what nature made.
hmm
You're not getting all the like all of the antioxidants and the plant-based anti-inflammatory molecules that plants make for their own protection. Well, that's not going to be in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to cost more to make it, and somebody's going to have a monopoly. And
Right.
I'm for you having a monopoly on what you put in your body. Yeah, and you having some say about whether you eat from nature or you eat out of a out of a box,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Yeah.
yeah, and I think after 4 billion years of nature putting this together, that we think because we have a head and we do some really crazy stuff, that we can improve on that. We've
Right.
never improved on it. We didn't improve on it with cigarettes. We didn't improve on it with COVID jabs. We didn't improve on it on, I mean, you could go through the whole list. We didn't improve on it with alcohol. We, and then
Mm-hmm.
somebody comes and then it becomes like a marketing exercise. And then people get paid for saying stuff that they probably should not be saying, and then what do you have? But it's a miracle. It's still a miracle because that's how crazy we can be is even a miracle.
Mm-hmm. It's
Is it
like,
is it sustainable? Probably not.
is what sustainable?
All this crazy stuff we're doing,
Um,
AI, all that stuff, because you can get AI in good hands can be a help for quite a few things. AI in the wrong hands can be unbelievably destructive. And mostly the people who have the power don't have the wisdom. In Canada, we spent, I don't remember exactly what it was, $16 billion on the war in Ukraine. And we spent 0 cents on peace at home. What's wrong with that picture?
right.
Right? And
Right.
we could all be living in peace. The peace
Mm-hmm.
is built into us. Unconditional love is built into us. It's called life. Life
Mm-hmm.
loves the body unconditionally. All 60 trillion cells, 24/7, never goes on strike, never asks for a raise, never wants anything back. Yeah, we could be living in touch with that. And that's a miracle. But
I have
we're
an idea of why we don't, but why do you think that we don't?
um, honestly, I think it's because institutions took a message that came from people who studied human nature. We called them masters like Buddha, Krishna, Christ. Socrates was in the club somewhere, you know, and what they all said was seek first the kingdom, and it's within you. So seek first the kingdom within you, and everything else will fall into place. And that's the one thing we're not doing because it requires stillness practice. We have to spend time with ourselves, getting quiet, noticing what's present, noticing what this is. When you begin to do that, then it's like all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, what am I in? Holy smokes. Right? So I think that's where and if I was to blame somebody, I would blame the church or the institutions built on the backs of the masters because they took the message because he said it's in everybody. And they said, no, it was just in one guy and you guys are screwed. Right? And they used it and they used a message that was meant to give people freedom to control them. So I would put it there before the politics. And it's
Not the
based in
answer I was
human.
expecting.
What's that?
Not the answer I was expecting, but
Oh,
I was
okay.
also thinking control.
Yeah. So what were you saying? What were you thinking?
I didn't know you were going to take it to church, but I
Yeah. I
I
took it to
see it.
church. I took it to
You
church.
took us to church.
Yeah, because the masters were the teachers of human nature. As
Mhm.
much, what, because
Yeah.
there's not like I studied biology. Biology means study of life. Do you know you don't study life in biology at
Mm.
university? Do you know that?
I studied biology.
Yeah, you didn't study life.
I
It's called the
see.
study of life. You didn't study life. You studied form and function,
I see.
but you never studied life. If you want to study life, you got to spend time with yourself because you got form and function and life together in you. You don't have to kill yourself to get to know it. But you have to, if you want to get to know what this is, then you have to spend time with what this is, right? If I want to get to know you, okay, I say, okay, you're beautiful and I want to date you, but I only talk to your neighbor. That's not going to work, right? Right? So it's that whatever you want to get to know, you have to spend time dwelling on it. And if you want to get to know what is human nature, you got to spend time with yourself. Because you're exhibit A for human nature, for you, right? You
Mm-hmm.
might not be exhibit A for me for human nature. I have to study myself. But you're exhibit A for yourself to know what is human nature. And then you start to say what these guys, what these teachers said. They were actually talking about human nature. And the scientists don't want to go there. They want to only study the stuff on the outside. They don't say, my philosophy of science professor said you can't be objective about anything subjective. So I said to him, well, what is objectivity? He said, what's an attitude? So can you learn the attitude? Yeah, we teach it all the time, he said. I said, so if you have learned the attitude, you should be able to point it that way, 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 that way. Yeah, 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 yeah. And this way. And he went apoplectic. he couldn't argue the logic, but he had been told you can't be objective about subjective things, and he had just memorized it, and he was barfing it back. That was my philosophy of science teacher in UBC.
Wow.
And of course, I giggled because I got him, as a young,
Mhm.
young, arrogant guy, right? So
Yeah. So if we're exhibit A,
yeah.
do we need to understand exhibit A before we can understand anything else? And how does that tie into our health and our nutrition? Is it different for exhibit A or is it the same for everyone?
Well, it depends on what you mean by the question, right? Exhibit A for you is you.
So would my health and nutrition be the same for exhibit A as it would be for exhibit B? As far
Uh,
as what
it,
what what I need?
well, if you look at the essential nutrients, there's 42 of them: 18 minerals, 13 vitamins, 9 essential amino acids, 2 essential fatty acids. As far as we know, every human being needs all those. But the amount they need, there's some variation. What is optimum for you might not be optimum for me. And there are probably some nutrients where there's some male female differences as well. Not in terms of that we need it, but in terms of what is optimum. And then it depends on body weight, size, and it depends on what you're doing. Because if you're more active, you're going to go through more of certain, like you're going to need more protein or certain things, right? So in some sense it's the same, and in some sense there is variation. And you are the best person giving the plates in front of you, and you do your eating, and you get to notice what happens when you eat certain things, and what works better than other things. You're the best person to be the expert on that for you, simply because for as long as you've been alive, you've been eating. So you have quite a bit of information, not all of it conscious, but there's information in your body about how things work in your body.
Mm.
And that would be different than mine, and there are other factors. Obviously, there are also psychological and emotional factors involved that make a difference to how fast nutrients turn over. So in the end, you have to be the expert on you. And you can get guidelines, we have guidelines, but the guidelines are not they're not mathematical. They're guidelines, right?
Right.
They're
Right.
not precise formulas.
Mhm. Yeah, you've been in health and wellness for over 40 years. You
Yep.
co-founded a supplement brand, you've written books on the topic.
Yeah.
What has changed or what has evolved over time as far as nutrition and health and wellness from your perspective from all of these years? Have your beliefs changed about anything, or have did you kind of learn it and you just that stayed the same?
Well, I studied biology and biochemistry and genetics. I took a year of medicine because I wanted to know what health is, and I thought it's called healthcare, so we're going to learn about health in medicine. We only learned about disease. I went back into biochemistry and genetics because I said at least I'm learning about how normal creatures function in normal situations normally,
Mhm.
whereas medicine is just about health. And I asked the dean, what is health? He said, we don't know, we're working on it. But they're not even working on it because they're only always focused on disease. That's like saying, well, if I look into darkness long enough, I will understand the nature of light. No, you won't. You have to look at light to understand the nature of light, right?
Mhm.
Well, they're not doing that. So I hadn't studied nutrition. When I got poisoned by pesticides, I got into nutrition with the background I had. So I had pretty good background, so I could read all the science and all of that. The most misunderstood arena was the area of fats. That's why I got into that arena, because I needed real answers. And I looked very deeply into it. There were already people in those days, this is like 45 years ago, 1980, when I got
Mhm.
poisoned. They were saying, oh, seed oils are bad and don't use seed oils, and omega 6s are bad and they give you inflammation. So
Wait,
there's
I'm sorry to interrupt. In the 80s, they were saying seed oils are bad?
there have always been people like that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that hasn't changed. In fact, I came into the arena of fats and oils around the time when they were most demonized. We had created in 1979 the uh, what's his name, the Senator McGovern, the McGovern Report on Nutrition and Health. They put the carbs at the bottom of the food pyramid as the thing you should eat the most of. They put the fats on top as the thing you should eat the least of. So I actually came right in the height of fat phobia.
Yeah.
And it didn't make sense to me. What they said didn't make sense to me. And I don't know who got paid and how all of that thing worked. But overweight went from 25 to 60% of the population in 20 years using that food pyramid, and nobody said a thing about it. But it's
Mm.
carbs mostly that make people fat.
I remember the whole no fat,
Yeah,
non-fat, zero fat, and
yeah,
everyone was afraid of it.
yeah. There's Pritikin's diet was 8% fat. He died of he actually killed himself. He was 69 and he had leukemia. He got leukemia, and people, I knew one of his right hand people. She came and started working with me because she said there was something wrong with Pritikin's diet. It doesn't work. And then we had a meeting at the International Vegetarian Society in Vegas, and I got up and I said, "So, how many of you are on low-fat diets?" All the hands went up. How many of you have dry skin? All the hands went up. I said, "Okay, so there's some there's something you need to pay attention to." And what you really need to do, if your skin is dry, you're not getting enough oils. It's like that simple. And so, on the one hand, eating vegetables has a lot of benefits, but dissing oils will kill you if you do it long enough, because you got to have two essential nutrients your body can't make. They come from oils, and if you do have no oils in your diet, you will run out of them gradually and probably take maybe 2 to 5 years, and then you'll die. Right? And then I said, what you need to do, you need to get oils made with health in mind, because we had just started doing that, and not get them damaged by the processing, because that's what should be blamed for the damage done to oils and omega 6s, both by industry, which damage about 1% of the molecules, and in the frying pan, which will damage maybe 5% of the molecules. And then you
I've
change them
heard.
into something that never existed in nature, where it goes in your body and interferes with what's supposed to be going on. So I said to them, you need to take oil, enough oil to make your skin nice. And not everybody believed it, but the people who did came back after and said, awesome. Not only did my skin become nice, but I actually have energy again, because highest energy molecules in nutrition are omega-3s. They're also the most sensitive to damage, so they need to be treated with the most care. But if you get them made with health in mind, we did a study with athletes. If they did their sport to exhaustion, they ended up with 40 to 60% increase in their performance
Wow.
within 30 days of taking a tablespoon per 50 pounds of body weight per day of Udo's oil that we did the study with.
Wow. Okay. I want to recap a little bit and maybe
Yeah,
I'll throw in something that you didn't even say, but correct me if I'm wrong on anything.
yeah,
So we need fats, we need oils,
yeah.
not seed oils. We want to stick with healthy oils, which we can talk about what those are. But
Well,
we need
they
fat
could be
oils.
no, but wait, they
Mhm.
could be seed oils. They just have to be made with health in mind. They have to
Really?
be protected from damage done by light, oxygen, and heat, because they're the
Okay.
most sensitive molecules. So what we did is we
Wrong.
developed a method that is really, really tight, that excludes light, oxygen, and high temperature. And then you make oils with health in mind. And those seed oils or nut oils are good for your health.
Okay. So as long as the oil is made appropriately and it's not and it's raw in its raw form.
Yeah, made with health in mind. And you don't use it for frying. I use my oil all the time, by the way, every day. And I'm
But you don't cook
80,
with it.
and I'm 83. And I'm functioning pretty good for for 83.
I would
both
say,
both
yeah.
both mentally and physically. I take trees down. I do gardening jobs on ladders
Oh,
and
wow.
clipping, and it's
Why do I
good.
feel like you probably do it barefoot?
No, I don't do it barefoot.
No?
But it's close to barefoot. I wear Birkenstocks.
Okay.
They're ugly, but they're really comfortable.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't do it barefoot.
um, that's amazing. Yeah, you're very sharp. I wouldn't have thought 80s for sure.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so I guess we've covered then oils. Well, what about olive oil and avocado oil? Are those on the same playing field as seed oils?
No, the only oil that is made by a different method than what industry usually uses is extra virgin olive oil. Now, they lie about it sometimes and call it extra virgin when it's not. But if it's really extra virgin olive oil, it's pressed from the flesh of the olive, not the seed, from the flesh of the olive, and they float it off on water. And so one of the reasons why it's popular is it's not damaged by the processing, if you're really getting what they say you're getting. Okay.
Mm.
And that's a good thing. But the downside is there's no omega-3s in olive oil and only 10% omega-6. So 90% of what's in olive oil your body can make out of sugar and starch. Not essential. That part gets left out. Okay.
Wow.
And then avocado oil. The problem with avocado oil is you can get rotten avocados, just like they take rotten fish heads and stuff, and you can do a chemical feast on it and pull out oil. And so you're making something saleable out of garbage.
Mm.
And there are no standards for the manufacture of avocado oil. There are standards for the other oils, and those standards include substantial damage. You don't know what the hell you're getting when you're getting avocado oil, because they don't have standards that they're working by. So you could make them out of rotten avocados, and who knows what you'd end up with. And
Mm.
so I don't use it. I don't use that. I don't use any cooking oils. I don't cook with oils. I eat mostly raw, actually. Because if you look at nature, standard in nature for every creature that eats, fresh,
Mhm.
whole, raw, organic, local, mostly seasonal. And for human beings, probably mostly plant-based, because hunting with rocks, which is where we started, right? Hunting with rocks, you're likely to come home empty-handed. And so
Right.
if you come home empty-handed and the hunters don't come home with meat, well, then they eat vegetables because they don't run away and they don't fight back and they're easy to hunt down and kill,
Mhm.
right? So
But then you need to cook some of them, right? Some of the
what's that?
vegetables? The
Why?
vegetables?
Why?
Well, I've heard that some of them do have certain chemicals in them because they can't fight off people. So they have something to kind of keep them alive to try to
Well,
make you sick.
yeah. Well, plants live in a world filled with viruses, bacteria, funguses, and microbe critters,
Mhm.
just like we do. Just like 10%. I don't know if you know, but 10% of the biomass on the planet is bacteria. 10%. And we are all human beings, biomass altogether, our weight, 0.1%. So there's 100 times more bacterial biomass on the planet than human. Okay. Well, the plants have to deal with that too. So they make stuff that protects them. And when we eat the plants, we get that stuff to protect us because we can make some of that stuff.
Oh,
So we're actually getting help from the plants. And
I
every
see.
creature other than us eats all its food raw. There's
Mhm.
certain foods you can't eat, certain plants you can't eat, but the ones you can eat, it's better to eat them raw.
Mhm.
They are like ketchup, Heinz ketchup, the ketchup company.
Uh-huh.
They wrote a nutrition book in 1937, had a spiral binding. It was used in universities, in nutrition schools in universities, and in
Mhm.
it they said tomatoes need to be cooked so you get all of the benefit from them. That's because they were cooking it to make ketchup. But
Right.
when you eat tomatoes raw with oil, because some of those pigments, the red pigment, is oil soluble. When you eat them with oil, you don't need to cook them.
Oh, okay. But I've also heard about some people reacting to tomatoes. Are tomatoes a nightshade?
Tomatoes and nightshade. Yeah, there are some people who have problems with nightshades, and they don't do well with potatoes, tomatoes, eggplants. There's a couple of other ones, right?
Okay, but those people are rare, right?
Yeah, you'll know if you're one of those people, right? Because we live in a world full of tomatoes, potatoes, and eggplants,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially tomatoes and potatoes, right?
Yeah, I
But not,
remember
and then it's the green part that has the pigments in it that are toxic.
the green part of the tomato.
Yeah, yeah. So the place where the tomatoes attached, that's usually green. You can cut
Mm-hmm.
that out, or if the tomato's unripe, but they even make stuff out of green tomatoes
Mm-hmm.
that is edible. So it's not as big an issue as it's made out to be. But some people got to pay attention. Just like there's like it. Not everybody can eat all the same things. There are some differences and I don't know if there's a particular gene. I know there's a gene where if you have it, you can curl your tongue like this, right? If you don't have the gene, you can't do it. Yeah, you have the gene, right? But if you
Mm-hmm.
don't have that gene, you can't do that. Literally. Right?
Huh.
Yeah. And I don't know what that gene does, but apparently it has something to do with the muscles that you have to contract to curl your tongue, right?
Mm-hmm. Wow, I haven't done that since I was a kid.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. How often do you get to stick your tongue out at somebody these days, eh?
Right. Are there any foods that you can't eat or that you can't tolerate? I'm wondering if over the years that's changed. Like if you weren't able to and then you were able to bring it back in or vice versa.
Yes and no. When I was in university, I wanted to be like everybody else because I was a teenager, and I used to drink coffee like everybody else did. We didn't drink coffee at home when I was a kid much, not maybe a little bit sometimes, and I could follow its going down my gut because it's irritating.
Hmm.
But that changed when I started taking probiotics, and now I drink coffee and it's not a problem. So it was really it had more to do with lifestyle than it had to do with a personal problem, right? So that's one.
Fascinating.
I happen to not like zucchinis. I just don't like them. I can't say that I have anything I can point to and say, well, it doesn't work for me. So there are certain things I don't like, but I don't know anything that I just can't eat. I mean, even crazy, like that slimy natto stuff. I have no problem with any of that stuff. You know,
Oh.
um, I love seeds and nuts. I love green veggies. Well, green, red, any color veggies.
Mhm.
Um, I eat some fruit, maybe more than I need to, although I'm not fat, so I'm doing okay, right? So because I can get I if I eat too much fruit, I actually put on weight, and it's a sugar in the fruit that turns into fat if I'm not burning it off.
Mhm.
Yeah, I love spices, but that's newer for me. And I've changed. I used to eat like everybody else did, and gradually, as I've gotten older and older, I've gotten more into whole food, plant-based. Um, I'm not completely plant-based. I put cream in my coffee, like heavy cream in my coffee, even whipping cream, right? Because there's some stuff in dairy cream, like butter, that's actually pretty good for health.
Mhm.
And I
That would
do
be a healthy fat, right?
well, yeah. Well, butter again doesn't have essential fatty acids in it. I get
Okay.
that from seeds, nuts, and the oils that I make with health in mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
What I
Flax is the richest source of omega-3 in the plant kingdom, and almost every seed and nut has omega-6s in it. So omega-3s are harder to get, and omega-3s are the ones that are missing, and our ratio between the two is way off, way too much omega-6 for omega-3. So we need to bring up the omega-3s, we need to bring down the omega-6, and we need to make both of them with health in mind. And they compete in the body for the work that they do. So if you get too much of one, it'll crowd out the other. And if you get too much of the other, it'll crowd out the one. And that's the second thing that people talk about, no seed oils, no omega-6s, is because the ratio is so bad. But instead of saying you shouldn't eat omega-6s, which is not true, you have to have them. They're essential. You can't make them. You'll die if you don't get enough long enough. But you need to get the balance between them right. And they know,
How? How can we get the balance right? And
well,
what do we need to eat for each
the
one?
way we did it is we started with flaxseed oil in 1986. It has 4 times more omega-3 than omega-6. I became omega-6 deficient on flax oil. So the ratio is too high in omega-3. It's the only thing that'll make you omega-6 deficient. The rest of us, we don't get enough omega-3. We're really high in omega-6s. So when we made the blend, we made it 2 times richer in omega-3 because that's sustainable. And then you get the highest energy oil. And one of the reasons why I have a lot of energy is because of the oil. Omega-3s give you energy. It's like I said, 40 to 60% increase in,
Okay.
yeah.
Here's something that you may find interesting, and I don't want to throw off the listeners by sharing this because I may be an anomaly, but I don't consume any oil. And I've
Okay.
tested this over the last 5, 6 years, when I started becoming very conscious of everything that I eat.
Yeah.
And I just feel that my body doesn't do great with oil. And I've tried raw or cooking with it. And I do understand that the cooking with it, that would make sense. But I've tried it
Yeah.
raw too, and
Mm-hmm.
very high quality. So extra virgin olive oil in a dark bottle, glass bottle. And for some reason, have you found that with other people or?
Well, there are people. Actually, it's interesting. There was somebody said to me, you know what? Why are you making oils? In nature, everything is in food, so you should just eat whole foods.
Right.
And the implication they had was that the healthiest you will be if you just eat whole foods. And I started thinking about it, and I said, well, is nature's mandate to keep you optimally healthy? And I came to the conclusion, not necessarily, because you need to be healthy enough to grow up, healthy enough to reproduce, healthy enough to raise your kids till they don't need you anymore. And
Mhm.
when your kids don't need you anymore, nature doesn't need you anymore. So then you get recycled. You'd probably be 45 at that point, maybe 50, right? Depends on how you live. We reproduce later than we used to. So, but let's say you're 45, 50, right? And the easiest way to recycle you is to never have you be optimally healthy in the first place. To be minimally healthy, adequately healthy, but not optimally healthy. And so I did an experiment. I used only seeds for my oils. Flaxseed for omega-3, 5 tablespoons a day. That absorbs 6 times its volume in water. So you're talking about 30 tablespoons. That's a lot. And then 3 tablespoons of sunflower and sesame seeds. So we had the 2-to-1 ratio that we use in the oil. And even in summer, when I need less oil, like I need maybe 4 tablespoons in winter and 2 or 3 in summer, because in winter you burn more of it just for heat. It doesn't all end up in your skin. And we measure it by how skin feels, because if you get enough oil, both of them together, omega-3 and omega-6, form a barrier in the skin against the loss of moisture. And you end up with soft, smooth, velvety skin, and you don't need gunk on your skin, right? Even in summer in California, where I was when I did this little experiment on myself, I could not keep my skin from getting dry just using seeds, just using like whole foods. So obviously the oil in the seeds is good for you. So good idea to get as much as you can from seeds. But if your skin gets dry, especially in winter, then it might be useful to use oil, but lose it in foods. Because I don't ever tell people to use oil off a spoon. There are people who do that. It's like, I think it's stupid. Oil belongs with food. They enhance flavors and they improve the absorption of oil-soluble nutrients in the food. So always use them in food and never, ever, ever, ever put them in the frying pan. Because frying is the stupidest thing we've ever invented to do to our food. Because you're burning stuff, right? You're turning oil into smoke. You've changed it. You're turning carbs black, and you're turning proteins black or brown. Brown, yellow, brown, dark brown, black smoke, right? And the research says that when you fry things, all of them, independent of each other, increase inflammation and the risk of cancer. So carbs burnt will do that. Oils burnt will do that, and proteins burnt will do that.
What about things like potatoes or meat or fish?
What? Fried?
Just cooked.
Well, yeah, see, when I was a kid, cooked meant in water. But when you say cooked, you mean in oil, right?
Or baked. Or what about air fried?
Yeah, when you burn it, you make it toxic. Whatever's burnt is toxic. However you do that, doesn't matter. If you cook in water, that's what we used to do with the steak. You cut it in cubes, you throw it in the stew, and it's boiled in water. Tastes great with all the vegetables and the spices and everything, right? We didn't burn the food. When you burn the food, you make it toxic.
But sometimes
because
it
remember,
tastes so good
but
that way. Go ahead.
we're doing Russian roulette now. Because now you're asking, what can I get away with, right? And you don't get away with anything. So the idea is, the better question to ask is, how do I need to eat in order to have the best health and longest life that's possible given my genetic makeup? That's the good question. The bad question is, well, can I get away with that? Or can I get away with that? Or what if I only fry?
I'm asking for the majority of the people listening.
I understand. I understand. And you asking a Russian roulette question for your audience, I have to give you the same answer. Frying is the worst thing we've ever invented to food if health is our goal. And so I don't fry anything. I don't have a frying pan in my house. I have a great stove. I never use it because nature's mandate was fresh, whole, raw, organic. There's no creature that eats cooked food, not in water and not in oil. And oil, because the temperature goes so high, you're burning the food. And when you burn the food, that will cause you problems based on the toxicity of damaged nutrients.
How do you feel about steaming?
Steaming is better than frying. Boiling is better than frying. Steaming is better than boiling. And raw is better than all of them. If you're going to use nature as your standard. And I do that because everything we've tried to do where we've tried to be smarter than nature, we always end up with some problem, right? And what is it that drives that is always, well, I can get, what do they call them, value added foods. So you mess with the food, and then you have something special, and then you can market it as something special, and then you could charge more money on it, you can make more money on it, and it's always driven by profit instead of health. Why isn't the human race motivated by health? Why are they motivated by money more than by life? That's the other way to answer the original question, right? Is when life is your God, that makes sense because that's the miracle, right? When money becomes your God, that's a substitute, and that'll cost you. The damage we done with money, like if people are not content because they're present in their own space, that's where your contentment lives, in your own space, right? It's not physical, it's not mental, it's not emotional, it's deeper than that, right? When you're discontent, you have a lot of money, you have a lot of power, and you can do a lot of damage. And by the way, all the wars in the world are made by the rich people. The poor people go to war because they're hired to do that, but the wars are started by the rich people. Doesn't matter where you go. Like the really serious wars.
Yeah.
Little skirmishes in tribes and stuff, but the really serious wars, somebody's sitting there and saying, well, I want more land, I don't have more land, I don't need more land, but I want more land. Okay, let's fight these guys and see if we can take their land away.
Yeah.
The hell is that? We could because there's something in us that is peace, and that is unconditional love, and we could sit still and tap into that, and then look at these people that we've defined as enemies and say, you know what, we're actually pretty closely the same. Maybe, could we just sit down and figure out how we can make it work for our kids? How can we make it safe for them to grow up, and how can we give them the best possible foundation for the life they're gonna live? We could do that. And it wouldn't matter if they were Russian Ukrainians or Israeli Palestine, or Pakistan and whoever they were fighting with, or Thailand, whoever they were fighting with, or black people and white people, or or men and women. It's like, if you're discontent, you're always going to find something to bitch about, and you're going to do damage. But by nature, in our deeper nature, we're actually wired for harmony. Now, I came out of the Second World War, so I've been tripping on that for quite a while. 83 years, right? I was 2 when we were in the Second World War. We were refugees. I got left behind. I was like all kinds of crazy stuff. And so, as I was 6 years old, I listened to people adults argue about trivial stuff, and I said, man, there must be a way that people can live in harmony. And this little cocky voice says, yeah, I'm going to find out. 6 years old, didn't know how complicated everything. So that's my driver. My driver's always been that. How can we make life better for people? Because the war was like, no, it's got to be better than this. But we don't do that until after a war. And then even after the war, we forget so quickly. So we're really, in some ways, really stupid. It's miraculously stupid in the way we live together on a planet that is like heaven on earth, that we treat like a sewer.
Right. Yeah. I want to go back to what you said about how people will care. They'll put profit before they put their health. Profit will go before their health. And unfortunately, I feel like that's what happens with people, is their health has to hit a wall before they actually kind of get this wake up call, and they have to, and they look at it,
Yeah,
and then, it's like a shield is lifted and like a veil is lifted, and they're able to see everything more clearly when it comes to health and how
yeah,
no one's going to save us, and you kind of have
yeah,
to take control of it yourself. Is that what happened to you?
yeah.
Why did you get so
Well,
into it
well,
fast?
yeah, I'd like to think that I was born wise, but I wasn't. I was just as stupid as everybody else, right? But when I got poisoned by pesticides, that got my attention because I went to the
How did that
doctor.
happen?
Well, I took a job as a pesticide sprayer because my marriage broke up and I wanted to kill something. So I was very, really upset, right?
Really?
And so I took a job as a pesticide sprayer, and the only reason we make pesticides is to kill living things. Well, the chemistry of weeds and plants and insects is a lot similar to ours. So if it's going to kill the insects, it's probably not good for you either. And I was really careless. And somebody even said to me, I had a lady who worked with me, and she said, "Aren't you worried you're going to get poisoned?" I said, "Nah, I'm immune." And then I got poisoned. So I went to the doctor and said, "What do you have for pesticide poisoning?" She said, "Nothing."
What were your symptoms?
I got cramps, nausea, dizziness. I was 38 years old, and if I walked around a city block, I had to sit down and rest like an 80-year-old guy. Like not this 80-year-old guy, because I don't need to do that. But I was like an old guy. And then if I turned my head, it felt like my head turned, but my brain didn't. Now, obviously, that's not true, but that's what it felt like. And the biggest thing that lasted the longest was the lack of energy. And you know why? You know why?
Hmm.
Pesticides kill creatures two ways. One is you poison their energy production system, or you poison their nervous system. Either one of them will take the energy out of you, right? And so then I realized, oh my God, I'm really on my own here. And I knew health is my responsibility, kind of, but I really knew it when she said nothing. And then it was okay, well, I have the background, I'm on my own, let me figure it out. So then I got into reading through all the journals on health and nutrition, disease and nutrition. And one of the things I knew that was helpful is every year, 98% of the atoms in your body are removed and replaced. 98%. So if something goes wrong with your body, you only have to do one thing: raise your standard. Raise your standard of intake. Because if you eat garbage, you're going to get a garbage body, right? If there's things missing, then things are not, life is not going to be able to make you a body that works if it's missing essential building blocks, or if you put toxins in it, right?
Mm.
And so I knew that it turns over. So I said, okay, I have to raise my standard. And so then I started looking at what are the standards? What are the essential nutrients, 42 essential nutrients, and how do I optimize those? And and how do I get to whole foods instead of processed foods, steaming instead of frying, raw instead of steaming, it's always like, and going back to how is it in nature? So start where you are and begin to take steps in the direction of fresh, whole, raw, organic. It's really not that hard. It's not like, I'm not saying, look, you got to quit everything. And no, and then to get your frying pan, turn it upside down, whack yourself upside the head of it so that it's associated with pain, and threw that stupid thing out, and then go back to boiling, steaming, raw, right? And so that's what got me interested. So the body turns over 98%, raise the standard, and in 1 year, you can have rebuilt 98% of your body to a higher standard. That's what healing is. That's why healing is possible, because your body's always turning over. If your body wasn't always turning over, you couldn't heal, right?
Yeah,
So
it's really
healing is based on normal body turnover.
It's really fascinating. I truly believe that even our organs can like almost regrow parts of them. I think
They
they need
do
to,
everything,
yeah.
everything. Like the lining of the inside of your digestive tract turns over every 4 days, because there's a lot going on there, so it's always turning over. Your liver is maybe somewhere between 6 weeks and 3 months. Your bones are the slowest, and it takes 7 years to get 100% turnover of your body. 7 years, right? But in 1 year, you get 98%. If you just drink the water you're supposed to drink, it's like 3 liters a day. You're drinking 15 times your body weight in water every year. Do you know that? And your body is 70% water. So that's turning over 15 times in a year. Oh my God. Right. And then all of the other things, like proteins turn over a little slower and oils turn over a little slower. The oils turn over in about 16 months. Right. And so, calcium turns over at a certain rate, and each one of those 42 essential nutrients turns over at a different rate. So when you figure it all out, your skin sheds all the time. Like when you go and take a shower and you put some soap on it and then your skin comes off. We used to call them sausages, skin sausages when we were kids, right? You know what I'm talking about, right?
No, it sounds like a lot of skin would come off.
Yeah, well, and it comes off, and like when you rub it, it comes off, and
Like if you exfoliate?
yeah, it's like exfoliation. That's what it is, right?
Okay.
And so we call them skin sausages, right? So your skin is always turning over, right? And some of it is toxins that come from sweating and all of that. Some of it is minerals, but some of it is the protein of your skin, right? And then oil, you're washing oil off your skin because the oil goes to your skin. So when you put that all together, it's like, okay, 15 times your weight in water. That's 70% turning over 15 times in 1 year. And then the other things a little slower, right? So how do you heal? Number 1, acknowledge you need to set a new standard. Number 2, set the standard. Number 3, commit to the standard. And number 4, wait a year. That's it, right?
Yes. So that's how you healed from the pesticides.
Yeah. And I paid more attention because I wasn't like a real junk food guy, because I kind of like, I had a truck, and I had a boom truck, and I was working on the boom truck, and I would take a cabbage to work with me because I didn't have to cook it, and it's pretty good. You peel off the outer leaf, you throw it away, and you eat the whole cabbage, right? I mean, I didn't eat the whole cabbage all in one sitting necessarily, right? But so I always kept it pretty simple because I always thought I had more important things to do than cook. And that's just my attitude about cooking,
Yeah.
right? Like cooking can be pretty interesting, but I ate a lot of whole foods, quite a bit, but I didn't pay attention. I didn't really pay attention. Well, when the doctor said they don't have anything for pesticide poisoning, it was like, okay, wait, we could spray them, but then the problems they cause, we don't have anything to fix those problems. What do we call that? That's called freedom without responsibility, right? And who allows it? Well, the government allows it, and the industry allows it, and all of this thing. It's like, okay, well, this is not cool. This is not going to work for me. I need to do something where I actually take responsibility for it and live in line with nature, because nature is my mother. Nature is where we come from. And so then I started looking at all of that. And when I make products, that's what I look like. What was it like in nature before we got civilized? And how do I duplicate that? Right? That's why we don't treat the oils with sodium hydroxide and phosphoric acid and then bleach them with bleaching clays and then heat them to frying temperature for 30 minutes to get rid of the rancid odor, rancid taste and odor, because you're doing damage to the oil when you do that. And that's why if you're going to make oils, then you have to make them under a system that is really tight, that excludes light, oxygen, and heat. And then you put it in glass because plastic leaches into oil, and you want to go organic because you don't want pesticides in your oil, right? And then you use the oil in foods after they come off the heat, but you never use it for frying. So we literally built like a whole different way of using oils. And they're refrigerated in the factory, they're refrigerated in the stores, you refrigerate them at home, right? So we built
refrigerate them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because they are sensitive. Once you open it, the air gets in, so slowly it starts to oxidize. So we say once you open the bottle, you keep it in the fridge and you use it up within 8 weeks, max. Yeah.
Is that the case for all oils or just the one that you made?
Well, just the ones we made with health in mind. The ones that are not made with health in mind are damaged already. You shouldn't even have them in your house. Never mind your fridge, right? You
But
should
if
park
someone
it.
has
You could park. You should park those oils in the garbage.
a if someone has a bottle they're using though, is it best for them to store it in the refrigerator? Let's say that it is a healthy, a
Well,
one that
even
was
if it's no, even if it's the unhealthy, if they have omega 6s and omega 3s in them, uh, um, olive oil is not as much of an issue because it has hardly any omega 6 and has no omega 3, right? So it's a
Mhm.
pretty stable oil. But any of the like corn and safflower, sunflower, they have lots of omega 6s in them. They should all be stored in the fridge because once you open them, air gets in and then it starts to react with the essential fatty acid with the omega 6.
Okay, I know we just jumped back to oils, but I do want to touch
Yeah,
on pesticides a little bit more
yeah,
because they're everywhere in our food supply.
yeah.
And I mean, obviously, you had your own pretty impactful experience with them.
Mhm.
How do we, I mean, the everyday person who doesn't work with pesticides as their job, but they're shopping at the grocery store and or maybe the farmer's market, how do we avoid them?
Organic.
Organic. So buy everything
Best
organic.
way, best way. Yeah, and you might find that some people lie about it. So you might get some things that are not organic when you're getting organic, but your
Mhm.
chance of getting organic are better if it says organic than if it doesn't say organic. Because if it doesn't say organic, you know it's not organic,
Right.
right? And there's only um, the other thing that's going on that's slowly is people are being taken to task for the damage they're doing, right? That's for pesticides, and the vaccines are a big deal now because there are side effects, and they used to have mercury in them, thimerosal, and mercury is a neurotoxin, and people would just put it in there and not, because people didn't know enough. They just say, oh, well, government would never lie to us. Well, I think we know better now. We've known better for a while, but my parents' generation, they said, oh, yeah, the industry would never do anything that would hurt anybody. So they
Yeah.
trusted the industry, even though the industry was not trustable then, just like it isn't now. And at some point, we got to clean it up, right? There's a saying about environmental issues. It's crude, but I hope your audience will forgive me. But it
Give
basically
it to
says,
us.
it says, if you shit in your nest, you will nest in your shit. Okay, that covers every environmental issue. We create it, we make it, we put it out there, and then we end up eating it because we keep eating the environment. That's our food, right? So if we're going to put it out there, I mean, natives have said that for years. What you do to nature, you do to yourself. This is not like news, right? Or,
Right.
Gandhi who said, be the change you want to see. Well, what's the change you want to see? Clean environment. Okay, well, be the change. Don't use pesticides, right? Don't
Right.
use don't damage the food. Don't do stupid things. Live in
Mhm.
line with nature, right?
Mhm.
And so as individuals, we can take steps. I people who have a house, I tell them tear up your lawn, grow your own vegetables. So you have some potatoes or tomatoes or turnips or whatever it is you want to grow, and if you're putting pesticides on them or not because you're doing it. So it gives you, and if you're lying to yourself, you're lying to yourself,
Right.
right?
Right.
So why not do that? And then you're saving, you're growing some of your food at home. I don't know, maybe it's only 10 days worth or whatever, right? But in those 10 days, all of the fuels we burn, bringing them in from God knows where, you're not doing that. So bring it
Mhm.
home. It's like to whatever extent you can be independent or dependent on what's within you, dependent on yourself. Put that in place.
I've also learned that if you grow your own food, that it picks up on what you need, what your body's needs are, and it will produce more or less of certain nutrients as it grows because it gets like your fingers, your hands are in the soil. You're the one
Yeah.
gardening, and it can pick up on that. I just think that that's so neat.
Yeah, it's a little bit woo-woo,
Right.
right?
I'm a
But
little bit.
yeah, and it's okay, but it's true that your environment is affected by you.
Mhm.
Whether you're throwing poison in it, or you're caressing the plants when you go by, yeah, or you talk to them, or you play
Mhm.
music to them. There's
Yeah.
some research that shows that things grow better when you take care of them,
Yeah.
right? And that's true for plants because they're alive too. It's
Hmm.
true for animals because they're alive too, and that's true for people because they're alive too, right?
Hmm.
So it does make sense to do that. I think the fact that you're actually doing it, I think you're going to do a better job than somebody who's just doing it for money, right? And and I think there's something that is psychologically good for you about having a relationship with the garden, with the plants in the
Right.
garden, right?
Right. With the
In a
food that's
way, in a
in the
way, just
body.
like in a way, they're like pets, right?
Right.
If you have a dog, old people do better when they have pets because there's a certain amount, there's a relationship and affection and a care, and the people who have pets take better care of themselves than people who don't have pets and just are lonely and sad
Mhm.
and stuff, right? So it all makes sense to to cultivate the love that you have in your sphere of influence. So it's woo woo sort of when you but there's research on quite a bit of it. When you practice peace, you actually reverse aging. When you practice love, you actually reverse aging. When you're frustrated all the time and you're adrenalized all the time, you actually age faster. So there's a lot of things we can do, and that'll affect what we do in our own body will also affect the what's around us. When you're shining, when you're really happy, you shine on people. When when you're paranoid, and you're really paranoid, pretty soon they're looking over their shoulders too. We affect
Mhm.
each other, right?
Mhm.
And I think that goes all the way into the animal plant kingdom. Maybe even the rocks become happier when you're happy,
I love
right?
it. I have some. How do you feel about a rapid fire
Oh, sure.
question?
Let's see where we end up.
All right.
I might up
And
into the fire.
now these could be just like one word, one sentence.
Yeah,
So, okay, first one. Olive oil or avocado oil?
neither.
Butter or margarine?
Oh, always butter. Is that you I would treat the cow more than the industry. Butter keeps the calf alive, and margarine only keeps an industry alive.
Love that.
Yeah.
Best fat for brain health.
Oh, omega-3 and omega-6, made with health in mind, undamaged. You need both, and they're almost equal ratio in the brain.
Worst fat for inflammation.
Fried.
Fried?
Yeah.
Just any
And
fried fat.
yeah, any fried fat, but the worst is omega-3s because they're the most sensitive, so they get the most damage when you fry them.
Hmm.
Yeah. But
Grass-fed beef or wild-caught salmon?
these days, grass-fed beef, because the oceans have become our sewers, and even the wild salmon has pesticides in it. I was in Alaska. There's pesticides in the salmon in Alaska, and
Oh,
when they're farm raised, they treat them, they feed them junk. They
right.
feed them junk, and it's like I've if you can there's some movies about what they do in the fish oil industry. I can't remember what was it called, something about the sea.
Seaspiracy.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And you
Yeah.
could see some of the stuff they do and how sick some of those fish are and how they die, and they just like
Mhm.
recycle them. And it's like, yeah, it's like, no,
Mhm.
nature in nature. you know? Yeah.
Plant-based or animal-based protein, what's more complete?
Well, the idea that plant proteins are incomplete kind of was debunked about 20 years ago. People still say that, but that was mostly advertising from the meat industry. They said, oh, animal meat. A cow is made out of grass, right? So all those animal proteins you get from a cow, apparently they're all in grass,
Hmm.
right? So maybe you should just eat the grass.
Okay.
Yeah, no. So, but the, and then you have to combine certain plants with other plants, and in order to get the balance right. That's mostly been debunked. Me personally, I think just because we, by nature, we would be most plant-based when we had rocks to hunt with. I would say eat whole foods. And by the way, there's more protein in seeds and nuts than there is in steak, because steak is 80% water and seeds and nuts are only about 10% water. Right? So you're actually getting more protein from seeds and nuts than you're getting from your meat.
Right. White rice or brown rice?
Well, brown, because white rice is brown rice with the peel taken off, and B vitamins are in the peel, and so brown rice is better. But rice, you got to pay attention because there's arsenic in some of the rices, so you got to. California is pretty good. If you get them from southern U.S., not so good. India, relatively okay, but you got to pay attention. What is your source?
If you could only eat 3 foods forever, what are they?
Oh my God, 3 foods forever? Uh, hmm. Broccoli,
Love it.
broccoli, flax, and maybe Brazil nuts. Put a bunch of spices in there too. I'd cheat. I would cheat. I wouldn't. I'm not going to keep it to 3.
And then one food swap that instantly upgrades someone's health.
One food
Swap. So like
swap.
instead of eating this, eat this.
I I would swap. I would swap carbs for good fats. Um, and I think in the fats arena, I would swap margarine for flax. But to
Okay.
get the flax, to get the omega-3s in flax, you have to blend them, because the seed is really hard, and you could eat flax seeds whole, and you could literally take them out the other end, plant them, and they would grow, because the seed coat protects the flax, because it's not there to feed you, it's there to perpetuate itself. So if you want to get the omega-3s out of flax, you have to put it in a blender or break it up somehow. Put it in a smoothie, put it in a shake or something like that.
Okay. I have 2 closing questions for you, but
Okay.
before I ask them, is there anything that is on your heart or in your mind to share that we did not cover?
No, but I think we should do another one on just what health is and human nature, health and human nature, because we've been here for 200,000 years and we've never put that together. And it's the two most things that are most important to people: your health, because everybody's always got something going on, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's got to be based in nature and human nature, because that's where health was invented, by life in nature as an adaptation, right? And then human nature, because if you don't know who you are, then how do you know what you should do?
Right.
Right? And you don't know what you're good for if you never look into what is a human being,
Yeah.
right? So those two, I would love to do
Part 2.
a thing on that if you're interested.
I would love to. I would
Yeah.
love to.
Okay.
My first question for you, my first closing question, what is your number one health tip? So whether that is mindset, diet and nutrition, physical, emotional, spiritual, the one piece of advice that you would like everyone to know.
Silence. Stillness practice. All of the wise people recommend you take time to do nothing. Right? You leave all your distractions outside. You get present in your own space to yourself. It's called stillness practice. And then you just begin to discover how beautiful you are as a human being, how magnificent it is that dust, water, air, and a little bit of light got mixed up so you could have the human experience. It's like, wow, and and if you don't spend time on that, you're always going to be discontent, and out of discontent, you're going to do a ton of destructive things to yourself, to others, and to the planet.
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. My final question for you is a more personal one. You get to choose a number 1 through 100, and it correlates to the question.
88.
What's a global issue you feel needs more attention?
Number 1 is peace. Number 2 is love. Number 3 is inspiration.
Udo, I feel like you might be enlightened.
Well, if I shine a flashlight up my nose, I will definitely be enlightened.
It's been
Yeah,
such a pleasure. Thank you so
yeah.
much for your time.
And by the way, it takes one to know one.
Thank you so much. I'm
Yeah.
working on it, you know? Well, I guess
Well,
you
yeah.
can't work
And,
on it.
and in some way, everybody's working on it, because who am I and what am I here for and what should I do with my life? Everybody wrestles with that question, but not everybody gets to the foundation of it, because the foundation of it is within each one of us for ourselves, right?
Right.
That's why the stillness practice is of all the things, the hardest thing to do is to do nothing. It's like actually kind of funny, right?
It is. It really is. Yeah.
But doing nothing is where the insights come from that
Mm-hmm.
make your life work.
Mm-hmm.
And they're your insights, so you own them. And so when you have an insight, a realization, oh my God, then you start to be true to those, because it's not somebody telling you and you saying, yeah, whatever, that's what you say, like, or,
Mm-hmm.
just because you say so, I'm going to do the opposite. But when it's your insight, you own it. And it feels good to have those insights. It's like, wow, amazing. So,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, I think you'd almost want to legislate it, but it doesn't work like that. You can't force people to do that.
Right.
People have to want to do that. Heartache. Heartache
It's
is the greatest gift we've been given, because it gets us out of our head and pulls us into ourselves. And and sitting in stillness with heartache, super, super useful. Don't look for the heartache. You get enough of that. So many triggers for it, right?
mm-hmm.
But it calls you. The heartache is the call to come home. It's not like what triggers it is not the cause. Your disconnection from yourself is the cause. And every human being goes through that. And heartache is the call to come home.